my friends. Chris Marcus here with you on Friday, December 22nd. Merry Christmas, right around the corner on Monday. And of course, the story of today and perhaps the week, crypto prices have crumbled. They've been destroyed, plummeted in the last day. I guess I could have known even before I woke up. I heard the phone buzzing and everybody's wondering what's happening. Really last night, a bunch of these got slaughtered. Bitcoin, a lot of them have recovered to the prices you see now. But for example, let's take a look at Litecoin here, where one day price, let's see, got as low as about 180 bucks after it was well over 300 for a week or two. Now back up at 284, and similar with a lot of the other cryptos. If you looked any time between last night and early this morning, a lot of them were getting pummeled, and of course you have people freaking out everywhere. So what is the moral of the story? Breathe. Just deep breath. It's gonna be okay. Breathe. And perhaps today I'll give you my Christmas gift of how to make this all a lot simpler, peaceful, relaxing. First off is that, I don't know, we're possibly looking at the most stunning rise in the price of an asset class, certainly that hasn't subsequently collapsed in history. So the fact that, well, I think there is a case if this technology really does replace a lot of the infrastructure that we have, which I think is going to be the case. That's my best guess. And why I'm invested in these, yet it doesn't mean that everything you own is going to go up 100% every day and it's never going to go down. In fact, in some ways, to me, it's an encouraging sign that, yes, you see the moves up, which everyone gets excited by, and then you see the moves down, yet not completely crashing, and again, often quickly rebounding. So, as I wrote in last month's market snapshot, if you're buying Bitcoin for $14,000 today with the hope that you're going to time it just perfectly, sell it at $16,000, and then get in the next coin that's about to go straight up, by all means, if you can do that successfully, please contact me. I'd love to be your friend. Although a little different than how I'm approaching it and how I feel it can be a great potential investment if people approach it perhaps in a different perspective, where I bought my first amount of cryptos back around June, made a couple purchases over the summer, and then about 2 months ago made the decision that, similar to how I feel about gold and silver, what the cryptos represent to me is a replacement of the dollar-based fiat system in a variety of ways, which we'll dip into in a minute or so and give you a better idea of what I'm getting at there. But quick way of thinking about it is any industry like healthcare or banking or mortgages, where, you know, there's always missing trillions that disappear, like in the Department of Defense that found out they've lost $21 trillion. Don't know what happened to it. It's gone. You know, or all the God only knows how much money is lost in Medicaid fraud, and all these things that we watch on 60 Minutes that add up at some point are the reasons why some people are going to Whole Foods, and you know, you need financial aid when you go to the salad bar. All this money comes from somewhere. And what I understand the cryptos to be, which might be different from you, how you see it, which again is why I give you things, introduce things that, you know, you can look further, begin making your own opinions. There's nothing really that replaces sitting there and listening to people talk about the technology, what it can do. You'll see what you agree with, what you don't agree with. And a big part of the reason why this morning when I woke up and the prices were a lot lower. Maybe it wasn't my favorite thing to see, but still being able to say, all right, I'm going to smile and go about my day. Nothing has changed what I see in the long term. So, especially when you're dealing with perhaps the most volatile asset class in history, you are going to have days where the price will be down 20%, where the price will be down more than 20%. And again, if you're trying to flip Bitcoin $1,000 here and there and move into the other coins, if you can do that successfully, then go for it. Yet a very tricky thing to do. And what I was thinking about this morning is how when I, basically about 2 months ago, I made what was for me a bit of a difficult decision to sell some silver and reallocate into the cryptos, which again doesn't change anything about my underlying views of gold and silver, but just when you have one market that's manipulated, and to the degree I thought it was a worthwhile bet that I could end up with more silver by making that trade, hopefully capturing a move in cryptos, which fortunately has occurred, and then being able to end up with a larger amount of metal. So at that time, also part of my thinking was that perhaps the best way to handle all of the situations and decisions with the cryptos, and obviously there's new ones coming out, there's news developing, there's tons of different voices saying tons of different things. And my strategy has been to do as little as possible. And again, I say this just as someone with a background of trading equity options, which is more short-term in nature. Yet I think there's a great risk of trying to get a little too cute and outthinking yourself. So what I did was I approached it and said, all right, if my scenario is right and we are seeing the degradation of the dollar and a lot of this failed infrastructure, and we finally have a replacement, what are the companies that make the most sense, that seem the most legitimate? Buy them, invest in them, and leave them as long as you can, which from everything I've seen, I still feel great about that plan. Again, it's a very tricky environment because you have prices have gone up so much already, and perhaps, for example, if you don't see any problems with the dollar infrastructure or see reasons that the currency has some significant problems that there really are no easy answers to, if you're not seeing that, then maybe we are at the point where some of the crypto pricing is high, because if that weren't the case, it would be a much different scenario. But that factor is what leads me to look at $76 trillion in the global stock markets. If even $1 trillion of that comes out and goes into the crypto sector, well, based on we're still under $500 billion. Okay, market cap about 544 billion right now. So what happens if people start pulling money out of the stock market, which according to the Fed, at least on even numbered days, they plan to continue raising interest rates, which if that's the case would make the value of stocks less because these are discounted cash flows. So if you ever saw anything remotely similar to 2007 or 2008, which based on Fed policy has become inevitable at this point, it's just a fraction of that money in the stock market, let alone the bond market or the currency market. If that flows into the cryptos, then yes, there is a lot of room to grow. So in that scenario, when you look at all of the pieces together, my thought that I'm left with, and again, a lot of this is based on just listening to people. It's not an easy concept to get overnight, which is why I make these videos. By all means, for more in-depth, really expert analysis of cryptos, please watch Cliff High. Bix Weir, also another great channel where, just the more repetitions you get of hearing and understanding what's going on, why it's happening, makes a lot of these decisions easier. and really helps you to get away from outthinking and just end up doing more trading than ends up being good in the end run. Because you're gonna have wild things happening that, I mean, we've already seen wild trading action unlike anything I've seen or read about in my career. And certainly if you're investing because you think things are going up, then you should be prepared that there's gonna be a lot of volatility to the downside as well. And a few notes have here. Well, first of all is, again, when you take that approach, then you can look on days like today and say, all right, the price is lower, but did anything about my long-term fundamental assumptions change? And if not, then you don't really have anything to worry about. Now, where people get in trouble, and I've certainly been guilty of this one of myself at times, when you woke up this morning and saw the prices and that was impacting your life to the point where you can't pay your rent or your mortgage, or it's putting something at risk, or even to the degree that it's ruining your day or putting you in a mood that you just aren't able to handle, then you're probably trading too big. And I'm not trying to give anyone a lecture, and again, I'm reminding myself of this perhaps even more so, but just keep that in mind where, even if you take 5% of what you have and put it in cryptos, or a couple hundred or a couple $1,000, and the scenario plays out the way I hypothesized before, you're gonna be in great shape. But if you're borrowing money, doing things on margin, especially if there's ever been a market where you don't want to be going crazy on margin because you could be right in the long term but get stopped out of your trade before you went on it, this is the one. So again, I know it's exciting and there's a lot of things happening and a lot of opportunity as well, but you got to make sure that you can stay in the game and play, and you're not freaking out and getting fired from your job because the stress is more than you're prepared to handle. So keep that in mind. And in terms of just getting to that point, which again, it's like I wish I could say something that would transfer it, except that it really just takes repetitions, hearing and learning. But fortunately, a lot of these CEOs are out there giving interviews, they're being questioned, facing easy questions, difficult questions. Here's Reggie Middleton of Veritasium, one of the cryptos that I've been learning a lot about and do own some of. And rather than wondering, all right, does this mean anything? Is it just a bunch of code? Is there any, I sit here and here you go. You got the guy talking for 47 minutes about it. And if that's too long, here's the double speed option, which actually works pretty great. It's become my best friend. So there you can learn about Reggie Middleton. You can go on YouTube, ask any question about Veritasium, and you'll have endless people commenting on it. Some you'll agree with, some you don't, but to me, that's a big part of how you can really get to the point where you have some fundamental view that you can trade on, rather than thinking, oh, geez, the price went up or down. Do I have to do something? What does this mean? And just freaking out, which always want to avoid. Here's Charlie Lee, one of my my favorites these days, founder of Litecoin, who actually had some interesting announcements this week. He's donated a lot of his Litecoin so he could focus on the project without restrictions, in his opinion. Google Charlie Lee and Zero Hedge. You should be able to find that article. Again, plenty, as you see on the right here, plenty of interviews with Charlie. So it's a different world we're living in, where back in the 80s or the 90s or even the 2000s, it didn't all, we didn't have YouTube, but investment landscape changing. The way information is disseminated is changing, yet when you use these things to your advantage, like watching Arcadia's weekly wrap-up, thank you for that, by the way, but that's how, at least for me, I can feel like I'm making good decisions, be able to incorporate, deal with the things that happen, and let it be working to my favor. So with that said, in that scenario, other than that, prices are a little bit lower. Maybe they'll be higher tomorrow, who knows, but at least I can take a lot of that, when we start overthinking things and leading to decisions or tinkering where often we're left best left alone, just going with the initial gut feeling. So that's what I'm doing. Hopefully this helps. Get up off that ledge, start breathing again, come back in. It's gonna be okay. And again, if it's really pushing you to the point where you're not feeling good about the things that are happening, please consider perhaps, especially if you have profits, great time to buy silver. Miles Franklin is always open to help you. MilesFranklin.com, who I now very grateful to be writing for, as well as really respecting as the place where I go for my gold and silver. So with that said, have a great weekend, great happy holiday, be safe out there, enjoy your crypto success, do so responsibly. I think 2018 is going to be a big year, and especially if we approach these things in good fashion, that serves us well. A lot to look forward to. So hit the subscribe button, leave your comments, and we will see you next week. Thanks so much.